Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel.
Do you not get the concept?
Okay guys, we got a very highly requested video today. We're gonna be talking about everything travel tips, and I'm not talking about domestic, I'm talking about international, y'all. So get your notebooks and get ready, because these are gonna be my tips on how I get to travel so much. Okay, so first we're gonna start off with everything that you need. Number one on the list, the most important thing, because if you don't have it, you can't go anywhere. You're gonna need a passport. If you already have a passport, you need to make sure that your passport does not expire. The best thing about passports now is that before you have to go take the picture at like CVS or something, print the picture, mail the application with your passport. No, they changed it. You can literally go online now and upload a picture from your iPhone. So just get like a blank white wall, take a picture. Low-key, they let you even do makeup now. Before they was like, no makeup, no lashes, this needs to look exactly like you. But don't be out there with no glam beat photo, because they probably will still reject that. So also, when it comes to renewing a passport, make sure that you renew your passport probably like, I want to say at least 6 months before it expires, because they be taking a minute, and you don't want to end up having like this situation where like sometimes you could get an emergency passport if you have a flight booked. You could go down, I think it's 48 hours before your flight, and then ask them to do the passport for you. But trust me, been there, done that. It's too much stress. And don't wait for a trip to come up to be like, oh, let me renew my passport. Your passport gets renewed every 8 years. Renew it the same way you renew your ID, honestly. But y'all get the point about the passport. Next thing you're gonna need, a good luggage set. I was one person who'd be like, oh, like I could just get a cheap one, like it doesn't really matter. Do you know how many suitcases I've ran through already? And it's always getting broken at the airport, and then the suitcase they replace it with is even worse every single time. I'm just like, bro, get a good suitcase so you don't keep spending your money on temporary suitcases. Because again, I feel like if you get the stuff now, you're kind of like investing so you don't have to spend a lot later. You need a carry-on, you need a full-size bag, and a travel bag, and a little pouch to put your toiletries in. When it comes to toiletry, get travel size everything. I don't care if you're checking a bag, get travel size everything, because it's going to save you on space, and it's going to save you it. God forbid, if your suitcase is overweight, you could just take it out and put it in your little purse or put it in your little carry-on and go through TSA and you'll be okay. Toiletries, you could get them from Target, you could get it from Walmart, you could get it from Family Dollar. It would have toothbrush, toothpaste, lotion, sunscreen, lip gloss, and then a mini edge control and edge brush. Oh, and Advil or some type of stomach medicine if you are planning to like drink or something, or also because sometimes the food could hurt your stomach in another country, and you don't want to be going to these international places that have these high tariffs on their stuff, and then it's just too much money. Like, save yourself. Buy everything here so you don't have to spend more when you get there. You're gonna need cash, because you're gonna end up in a situation where your card's declined because the bank thinks it's fraud, they didn't know you was overseas, your phone might be dead, you might be lost. You're gonna need the cash. So always have some loose cash on the side. I usually bring about $500, $600, but sometimes I'll bring more if I'm going with other people. Okay, next let's get into actually picking your location. Some people, they have a place that's like their dream place they always wanted to go to, and then there's people like me who go on Google Flights every day and be like, what are the cheap flights? And I'll go anywhere. I don't really care. I'll find something to do there. So Google Flights, I'm always checking on private, of course, and check on your phone, because I feel like when you check on your computer, the prices are always higher. What you could do is you could put your state and put anywhere, and it shows you all the different places, all the different prices. Yeah, I base it on how cheap the flights are, and then I'll go from there. So that's how I pick my locations, except for like Carnival and stuff. Those, I feel like that's the only time I really spend money on a trip, for real. Another hack though is if you do want to go to the Caribbean specifically, you could go on cheapcaribbean.com, and they usually have good bundles. I know sometimes people go on Expedia, but I feel like Expedia, when you do the hotel plus flight, they always knock up the prices for the flight. I'm like, I see it on the actual website for this price, and you're giving me $400 more. No, you're not gonna get me. But I would book my hotels on Expedia, because the Expedia hotels are cheaper than the actual website for the hotels. I would always book my flight first before I book my hotel. And this is something you might want to keep in mind. If it's like high seasons and the islands are not really big on tourism, you might want to check to see if they have hotels on the island first. The only time I had an issue with that was when I wanted to go to Turks and Caicos. The flights were like $200 for Turks and Caicos, and they were $200 because there was no hotel. But for the most part, you shouldn't really have that problem. Now for hotels, how are you trying to have this trip? You could go the all-inclusive route, which a lot of Caribbean countries have. I know in South America that's not really an option. Europe, that's not really an option, but in the Caribbean you'll get all-inclusives. For all-inclusives, I would book again a bundle on Cheap Caribbean. That's one. Keep in mind, I'm going to explain to y'all how I do my budgeting after for how much I'm willing to pay on each thing. So all-inclusives, I will book Cheap Caribbean. I would do Expedia. I would never book an all-inclusive on the actual website because the prices are usually higher than the prices on these third-party websites. If you book on a third-party website, there will always be an issue with changing stuff directly with the hotel because, again, you didn't book with the hotel directly, you booked with the third party. So if you have an issue, you're gonna have to speak with who you booked with. I had an issue one time where my flight didn't get changed properly for customer service, and it was with Cheap Caribbean, so the airlines could not fix it for me because it was a third party vendor. So always know the customer service line, know the hours, stuff like that. Then if you want to go for even lower in budget, there are other websites. Like, I don't do B&B, I'm not gonna lie, I don't do Airbnb at all. If you want to go even cheaper, if you don't want to do all-inclusive, if you don't want to do a regular hotel, then I would recommend a hostel. And hostels are not all bad. My only issue is that most times when you book a hostel, especially South America, Europe, it's going to be like living in a dorm, like bunk beds, you get a locker. Like, if you're gonna do a hostel, you have to really pack small. I think I've only done a hostel once, and that was when I went to Miami. That hostel was more of a hotel vibe. It wasn't the traditional like eat together, we sleep together, this is summer camp. No. But the hostels I've seen, they're not bad. It's a great way to save money, actually, especially for South America, because the hostels could be anywhere from like $20 a night, $50 a night. It's a great way to meet people. It's just, for me, I just feel like I just don't trust my stuff to be okay. I want to be able to leave my stuff laid out and then hop from excursion to excursion to excursion. So that's my only thing with hostels. But again, it's a nice way to get around on a budget, especially if you're hopping from country to country within a continent, or if you want like a quick stay or like a little one night. It's a great way to go. And for that, I would say do hostels.com. I feel like you could also find it on Expedia too, but hostels.com, they definitely have a lot of credible places. When it comes to booking these hotels, I need you to read everything that is included in them, okay? Because some of them would say all-inclusive in the title, but when you look, there's no food included. I'm gonna book an all-inclusive. I need there to be food, I need there to be drinks, I need there to be Wi-Fi. A lot of times these hotels, they would say all-inclusive, and it wouldn't be all-inclusive. It would just be a way to like clickbait you into like booking a hotel, and they would be like, oh, you didn't read the terms and conditions and all that extra stuff. So be mindful of that. My go-to hotels have always been like Barcelo, Bavaro, Rue. What else? I think those are like my main ones. And they have like a lot of branches in other countries, but not every single one is all-inclusive. So that's why you need to read. You need to read, you need to read, you need to read. You have to think about location for these. Like, how far is it from the excursions? How far is it from nightlife? How far is it from the airport? Because then you're gonna have to worry about getting transportation now. Before we get into that, the next thing we're going to talk about is excursions. I don't want to do the same thing over and over in every country. I don't want to go ATV and jet skiing every place I go. I want to know what is something that this country has that another country does not have, and I can only do it right here, because that's going to be the excursion I book. A lot of times when I book excursions, I don't really book it online. 9 out of 10 times, the excursion is cheaper in the country itself. For example, Mexico, they have this, all of them are having the same bundle. ATV, cenote, whatever, right? Everybody has that same bundle. And when you book it online, it's probably $150. But then if you go out in the street and you're walking, there are locals who are selling it for half the price. So that's why for me, I usually wait. Worst case scenario, if you do book an all-inclusive hotel, or if you book a mainstream hotel, there is a customer service area where they're like, oh, things you could do in this town, and they will offer you all the excursions if you don't have the opportunity to like explore. But every time I booked an excursion before time, I ended up finding it for cheaper when I went to walk around and see the area. the next day, which always got me tight. So that's why I just wait for excursions, unless it's something I really, really want to do. So like, for example, whenever I finally get to go to Nicaragua, I'm going volcano sliding. I don't care. And a lot of times too, when you speak in the street, you can negotiate prices. If you bundle, they'll probably give you a lower price. Like, they also have the option where you could book excursions at the airport too. What I would do in those cases is I would take pictures of how much they are. I'll take down their WhatsApp, stuff like that, and save it in mind for later. But the first day, I don't usually go anywhere if it's a longer trip. Like if I'm there for 5 days, I'm not booking an excursion for the first day. But if I'm there for 3 days, that might be the only time I might really push to try and book an excursion in advance, because I want to do something as soon as I get off the plane and I don't have time to be looking for the best deal. Next, let's talk about food. I usually go the all-inclusive route to cut the price of running by, like, oh my gosh, I'm spending $100 a day on food. No, I just paid all of that with this all-inclusive, and I'm gonna eat on the resort. And if the excursion comes with food, I'll eat the food for the excursion. If there is not an all-inclusive available on the island, the next thing I would do is, like, I'm not eating at the fancy restaurants that they put right in front of the hotels. You have to think about this as like a consumerism stuff. If I'm in New York and I'm in a city, all the stuff there is going to be double what it would be in Brooklyn, because they know what, it's tourists here, they're gonna spend their money, they don't know no better how much the prices are. I eat locally, so I would go to somebody's grandma's restaurant and I'll eat there, and their prices would be way cheaper, way realistic, and you're like, oh wow, like sometimes it would be so cheap that you would order more than you would order on a regular day. In those cases, when I find like something that's like really cheap like that, I would order food and then order food to go. Hopefully your hotel has a microwave, and I would take that food and I would eat the next day, and then hopefully wherever we go I find something again. But also, even going back to the local food, it's like, why am I eating American chain restaurants in Guatemala? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. When in Rome, do what the Romans do. So I'm eating what the people here are eating. So we talked about food, we talked about excursions, we talked about location, hotel. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is transportation. So some countries, and you need to look this up before you go, some countries you could get Uber for a very, very cheap price, and you could just Uber everywhere. The only thing is that sometimes when the Uber is cheap in the country, it's just really hard to get. When I went to El Salvador, the Ubers were dirt cheap. Like, to drive 3 hours, I think it was like $20 for, but the issue was that I couldn't get any Ubers. When I got to the hotel and I ordered an Uber to go to the town, and the driver that was there, I asked him his name, I asked him if he was willing to be my driver for the weekend, and it ended up being still cheaper than if I was to book a driver online. I don't travel in really, really huge groups. If you were to do a bigger group trip, that would be the one time I would say, get a driver. Like, I can't tell you how to get the drivers because I don't do that, but get a driver or rent a car. But I personally do not want to drive in another country. But if you want to rent a car, I would say do that, because it will probably be cheaper because it's a bigger group. But me, I like to travel with 1 to 2 people tops. Now let's talk about what everybody really came for: the cost, the money. Yeah, the money. So first of all, you need cash. If you do not have cash, you are going to be ASS out of a lot of situations. And this goes for all the advice I gave you on how to save. So for example, there's no cards when you're speaking to these people on the street and you're gonna pay them, because you're paying them cash. Don't pay them before. When you're speaking to someone on the street, you will pay them probably a deposit sometimes when they give you receipts, when they're professional like that, with the real shacks and they work under a company and stuff. But for most times, you're paying for the excursion after it's complete, or as soon as you get in the car and they're taking you for the whole day. So cash is so important. I'm telling you, you have cash, everything is cheaper, and you could also beat all the like international fees and stuff like that. Credit cards, right? Have more than one credit card, because if one fails, you're going to need another one. You do not want to be stranded. When I went to Europe, I had about 3 credit cards on me. One of them was working. Then I don't know how fraud started happening on it. They closed that credit card. And if I didn't have 2 other credit cards with me, I would have been screwed. But keep in mind, the more you use the credit card, the more international fees you might get. That's why I ended up getting like a travel card, so I could bypass that part. Budgeting for the trip. Ooh, this is a good one. this is a good one because I'm queen save a dollar. Most of my trips, I would say I spend less than $1,000 for everything. For everything, flights, transportation, food, drinks, excursions, everything. My first goal is to keep my flight and hotel under $600. So most of the flights I find, they're about $300. I think the most I paid for a flight was maybe like $4 something, but I really try to keep it from $300 to $400. If the flight is high, the hotels are usually a lot cheaper, and the flights are higher because the tourism is not high there. So for example, South America, a lot of flights there are around $300 to $400. But then when you get there, you could get a hotel for $20. So if I do an all-inclusive, right, that's when my hotel would be higher. So for example, when you go to the Caribbean, the flights are cheaper, but the hotels are more because again, they have tourism. So I could probably get a flight to Jamaica for $200, but then my hotel is going to be $400, $500. If you paid $600 for the hotel and then $200 for your flight, you're at $800. You don't have to worry about spending money on food, and you don't have to worry about spending money on drinks. So you're saving on that part. But if you have a hotel where it's cheap and you probably spend about $200 for the hotel and $400 for your flight, you have to buy food. So I allot myself about $50 to $100 a day to eat. This is food and drinks. So I buy a bottle. Screw shot. I buy a bottle. Like I would go to a liquor store in the island, or I would buy a bottle at the airport, and I would drink that liquor because there's no way I'm bringing it home with me. So I'm gonna just drink it throughout the week. Cool. The next thing is, again, I said I eat the local food, and the local food is usually like, it's not even more than $5 most of the time. Like you might get a meal for $10, and then of course there's gonna be times where you do want to splurge and eat real big, whatever. You could do that like one day or 2 days, but you don't have to do it every day. Then when it comes for excursions, I feel like excursions, it depends on if you're going half day or if you're going full day. If I'm going for a half day, I'm not spending more than $60, $70 on an excursion. If I'm going a full day, I'm not spending more than $150 on an excursion. For half days, you're usually just going to one place. When it's full days, you're probably going to multiple places. So if I'm doing an excursion that has multiple places, that probably might be the only excursion I do. And that's also because I probably have a short amount of time. So for example, if I'm going to 3 days, it's only one day that I'm going to do an excursion. The other days I might go to the beach, or I might go to the club, or I might want to relax. But I just need one good excursion for the trip just to be touristy. But other than that, I'm just chilling. If I'm going on like a 5 to 7 day, I probably will book 2 half-day excursions, because you're also going to think like, oh, I could do this and that in a day. I'm telling you, you're going to be half sleep on one of them excursion if you do it like that. Like you need to at least have one day in between an excursion so you can breathe. And if you're on, again, an all-inclusive, you also want to enjoy the resort. There's always a lot of stuff to do. Like they might have free kayaking, they might have parties, they might have dance classes. Like you want to be on the resort and have fun. Also, if you are 21 plus, book that adult only all-inclusive. Okay, thank you. But yeah, so 1 to 2 excursions, the prices. So that's how I keep that under budget. Then the only other thing that I would say that you might have to worry about price-wise is your suitcase, because a lot of airports, I don't know what's that about now, they no longer do those carry-on included, or like first check bag free. Make sure you book a flight with the carry-on included, because they will charge you at that gate. Like it's no more trying to sneak it, they will charge you at that gate. One little hack, don't say I told you this, but if I really do not want to pay for a carry-on, because there are some airports that be like, oh, $100 for a carry-on. I'm not giving you $100 for a tiny suitcase and I can't pack everything I need. I would do like a book bag, and then if I have extra clothes, I would stuff it in a pillow. They never know. But don't say I told you. Don't say I told you. I feel like I didn't mention this, but I know a lot of times people are also going for nightlife. I am not your girl for that, because I am very much talk to the locals, talk to the hotel staff. I put you on, if you go to Jamaica and you talk to them people at the all-inclusive, they will take you out. But I don't want to go to the Coco Bongo nightclub. I want to go to the clubs that the locals be going to. So that's why I can't give y'all recommendations about that, because you're gonna be like, hey, you're crazy, how can you trust them? Man, I'm just trying to live life. So when it comes to nightlife, I usually kind of meet the people out there. I would ask like the locals, like, oh, where do you guys go to party? I would ask the people at the hotel where they go to party, and I go to the local bars and local clubs. So I'm not paying $100 to go to no implant club. Sorry, I am not your girl for nightlife, but I'm also a girl, so pay for nightlife. If you know, I don't do that. I don't do that. But I think that was all the tips I have in mind for right now. So if you guys have any more questions about traveling, anything specific, if there's any places that you see me visit that you want me to talk more about how I plan those specifically, comment down below. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and come back next week for another video. Bye.